Mahmud of Ghazni, often known in South Asian history as Mahmood Ghaznavi, was one of the most influential and controversial rulers of the medieval Islamic world. He was born in 971 CE in the city of Ghazni, located in present-day Afghanistan. His life and career unfolded during a period of great political change, cultural exchange, and military expansion across Central Asia, the Middle East, and the Indian subcontinent. Mahmud of Ghazni is remembered both as a powerful conqueror and as a patron of art, literature, and learning. His legacy has been interpreted in different ways depending on historical perspective, religious context, and regional memory, but there is no doubt that his reign left a deep and lasting impact on the history of South Asia and the wider Islamic world. Mahmud was the son of Subcontinent, a former slave who rose through the ranks of the Samanid army and eventually became the ruler of Ghazni. Subcontinent laid the foundations of the Ghaznavid state by expanding his territory and consolidating power in the region. From an early age, Mahmud was trained in administration, warfare, and governance. He grew up in an environment shaped by military discipline and political ambition, which prepared him for leadership. When Subcontinent died in 997 CE, a struggle for succession followed between Mahmud and his younger brother Ismail. Mahmud emerged victorious, securing the throne of Ghazni and beginning a reign that would last for more than 3 decades. Once in power, Mahmud focused on strengthening his authority and expanding his empire. He inherited a relatively small but well-organized state, and through a combination of military skill, strategic planning, and administrative efficiency, he transformed it into one of the most powerful empires of its time. Mahmud's rule extended across parts of modern-day Afghanistan, Iran, Central Asia, and large areas of the Indian subcontinent. His military campaigns, especially those directed toward northern India, are among the most discussed aspects of his life. Mahmud of Ghazni is particularly famous for his numerous expeditions into India, which historians often number as 17 major campaigns. These expeditions were driven by multiple motives, including political expansion, economic gain, and religious ambition. At the time, northern India was divided into several kingdoms, often engaged in conflicts with one another. Mahmud took advantage of this lack of unity to launch repeated invasions. His campaigns targeted wealthy cities, forts, and temples, which held immense resources in the form of gold, jewels, and other valuables. The wealth he brought back to Ghazni played a crucial role in strengthening his empire and financing further military and cultural projects. One of the most famous episodes associated with Mahmud of Ghazni is his attack on the Temple of Somnath in Gujarat. This event has been widely discussed and debated by historians over centuries. According to traditional accounts, the temple was one of the richest religious centers in India, attracting pilgrims from far and wide. Mahmud's campaign against Somnath was both a military and symbolic act. It demonstrated his power and sent a message to rival rulers about his strength and determination. While some historical narratives emphasize the religious dimension of this event, modern historians often point out that economic and political factors were equally important in motivating the campaign. Despite his reputation as a fierce conqueror, Mahmud was also a skilled administrator. He understood that lasting power depended not only on military victories, but also on effective governance. He established a centralized administration, appointed capable governors, and ensured that taxes were collected efficiently. His government maintained order across vast territories, which was no small achievement in an era marked by constant warfare and instability. Mahmud also paid attention to infrastructure, supporting the construction of roads, mosques, palaces, and public buildings that enhanced the prestige of his capital city, Ghazni. Ghazni flourished under Mahmud's rule and became one of the most important cultural and intellectual centers of the Islamic world. The city attracted scholars, poets, historians, and scientists from different regions. Mahmud was a generous patron of learning and the arts, and his court was renowned for its brilliance. One of the most famous scholars associated with Mahmud's court was al-Biruni, a polymath whose works on astronomy, mathematics, geography, and Indian culture remain highly respected. Al-Biruni accompanied Mahmud on some of his campaigns into India and wrote detailed accounts of Indian society, religion, and science, providing valuable insights for later generations. Another prominent figure at Mahmud's court was the Persian poet Ferdowsi, the author of the Shahnameh, an epic poem that narrates the legendary and historical past of Persia. Although the relationship between Mahmud and Ferdowsi is often described as strained due to disputes over patronage, and rewards the presence of such a monumental literary work during Mahmud's reign, highlights the cultural richness of the Ghaznavid court. Persian culture and language flourished under Mahmud's patronage, and Persian became the dominant language of administration and literature in his empire, influencing later Islamic dynasties in the region. Mahmud of Ghazni also played a significant role in the spread of Islam in South Asia. While his military campaigns were primarily aimed at conquest and wealth, they also facilitated the introduction of Islamic political authority into parts of India. Over time, this led to increased interaction between Islamic and Indian cultures. Traders, scholars, and missionaries followed in the wake of military expansion, contributing to the gradual spread of Islam. It is important to note, however, that religious change in the region was a complex and long-term process influenced by many factors beyond Mahmud's campaigns alone. The image of Mahmud of Ghazni in history is complex and sometimes contradictory. In many Islamic historical traditions, he is remembered as a heroic ruler and a defender of Islam, praised for his victories and his support for scholars and poets. In parts of South Asia, particularly in Hindu historical memory, he is often portrayed as a destructive invader, responsible for the destruction of temples and cities. Modern historians attempt to move beyond these polarized views by placing Mahmud in his historical context. They emphasize that warfare, plunder, and temple destruction were common practices in medieval politics, not unique to Mahmud or to any particular religion. Mahmud's military success was based on careful planning and the effective use of resources. He maintained a well-trained and disciplined army that included cavalry units, skilled in rapid movement and surprise attacks. His campaigns were often launched during specific seasons to take advantage of weather conditions and logistical considerations. Mahmud also used diplomacy when necessary, forming alliances with certain rulers and exploiting rivalries among his enemies. This combination of force and strategy allowed him to achieve victories against numerically larger opponents. Economically, Mahmud's empire benefited greatly from the wealth acquired through his campaigns. The influx of gold and other resources helped stabilize the state's finances and allowed for large-scale construction and patronage. Ghazni's prosperity during this period was such that it was compared to other great cities of the medieval world, such as Baghdad and Cairo. Markets thrived, artisans found employment, and the city became a hub of trade connecting Central Asia, the Middle East, and South Asia. Mahmud's personal character has been described in various ways by historians and chroniclers. Some portray him as a devout and disciplined ruler who lived a relatively simple life despite his immense wealth. Others emphasize his ambition, strictness, and occasional harshness toward enemies and rivals. Like many powerful rulers of his time, Mahmud demanded absolute loyalty and did not hesitate to punish those who opposed him. At the same time, he valued talent and rewarded individuals who contributed to the strength and prestige of his empire, regardless of their background. As Mahmud grew older, the challenges of ruling a vast empire became more pronounced. Maintaining control over distant territories required constant attention and military presence. Rebellions and external threats were an ongoing concern. Nevertheless, Mahmud continued to lead campaigns and oversee administration until his health began to decline. He died in 1030 CE in Ghazni, leaving behind a powerful but complex legacy. After his death, his empire gradually weakened due to internal conflicts, succession disputes, and external pressures, eventually giving way to new powers in the region. The historical significance of Mahmud of Ghazni extends far beyond his lifetime. His campaigns marked one of the earliest sustained contacts between the Islamic world and northern India, shaping the political and cultural landscape of the region for centuries. Later, Muslim rulers in India, such as the Delhi Sultans and the Mughal emperors, inherited administrative practices, cultural traditions, and political ideas that can be traced back, in part, to the Ghaznavid period. Mahmud's emphasis on Persian culture and administration had a lasting influence on the development of Indo-Persian civilization. In historical writing, Mahmud of Ghazni has often been used as a symbol, sometimes more than as a historical individual. For some, he represents the triumph of Islam and the spread of a new political order. For others, he symbolizes invasion and destruction. These interpretations are shaped by later historical experiences and modern identities. A balanced understanding of Mahmud requires recognizing both his achievements and the suffering caused by his wars. It also requires acknowledging that medieval rulers operated within norms and values very different from those of the modern world. Education systems in South Asia often include Mahmud of Ghazni as an important historical figure, though the way he is presented can vary widely. In some textbooks, he is celebrated for his bravery and leadership. In others, he is criticized for his invasions. This diversity of perspectives reflects broader debates about history, memory, and identity. Studying Mahmud's life provides an opportunity to explore these issues and to understand how history is constructed and interpreted over time. Mahmud's patronage of knowledge deserves particular attention because it highlights a less violent aspect of his rule. The scholars who gathered at his court produced works that enriched human understanding in fields ranging from astronomy to linguistics. Al-Biruni's studies of Indian culture, for example, remain valuable not only as historical sources but also as early examples of cross-cultural scholarship. Such achievements remind us that Mahmud's empire was not only a military power but also a center of intellectual activity. The Ghaznavid administrative system under Mahmud combined elements from Persian, Islamic, and Central Asian traditions. This synthesis allowed for efficient governance across diverse regions. Officials were often chosen based on merit and experience, and record-keeping played an important role in administration. These practices influenced later Islamic states and contributed to the development of bureaucratic traditions in the region. Religious policy under Mahmud was shaped by his identity as a Sunni Muslim ruler in a diverse empire. He supported Islamic institutions and scholars, but he also ruled over populations of different faiths and cultures. While his military campaigns sometimes involved acts of religious symbolism, day-to-day governance required a degree of pragmatism and tolerance to maintain stability. This complexity is often overlooked in simplified narratives of his reign. Mahmud of Ghazni's life story illustrates the dynamic and interconnected nature of medieval history. His empire linked Central Asia, the Middle East, and South Asia, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultural practices. Through trade routes and political connections, the Ghaznavid state became part of a larger world system that extended from China to the Mediterranean. Mahmud's role in this system underscores the importance of looking beyond modern national boundaries when studying historical figures. In conclusion, Mahmud of Ghazni was a multifaceted ruler whose impact on history cannot be reduced to a single narrative. He was a conqueror, an administrator, a patron of culture, and a product of his time. His military campaigns reshaped political boundaries, his patronage enriched intellectual life, and his influenced the development of later Islamic states in South Asia. Understanding Mahmud of Ghazni requires careful consideration of historical context, multiple perspectives, and the complex realities of medieval power. By studying his life and legacy in depth, we gain insight not only into one man's achievements and failures, but also into the broader forces that shaped the medieval world.